I never thought a single moment could change everything. One second, I was living my quiet, predictable life with my wife, feeling like we were this unshakable team, and the next, everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and betrayal was completely upended. You know that feeling when someone stares at you, and for a split second, you see the truth in their eyes before they look away? That's exactly how it started. My name's Jason, and I'm not proud of how this all began. I loved my wife, Emily, or at least I thought I did. We had the kind of life people post about on Instagram. Cozy dinners, weekend trips, late-night talks that felt endless. But behind the closed doors, things were complicated. She always believed I'd never be able to let go of the past. She thought I was stuck in some emotional rut that no one could reach. And maybe she wasn't wrong until that night. I can still remember the smell of rain on the pavement, the sound of tires skimming across wet asphalt, and the way my phone buzzed in my pocket like it knew what was about to happen. Emily had been distant for weeks, cold, distracted, like something was gnawing at her from the inside. I tried to reach her, tried to have the conversations that matter, but it felt like she had built this invisible wall between us. And me? I was frustrated, hurt, and slowly, quietly, drifting. Then came her sister, Lily. I'd known Lily for years, Emily's bubbly, fearless, impossible to ignore little sister. We'd laughed at family dinners, shared stories, even joked about our mutual exasperation with Emily's moods. But I never imagined that laughter could spiral into something else. That night, a chance meeting at a friend's party turned into a moment that I'll never forget. There was a spark, subtle but undeniable, something in her smile that cut through the tension I'd been carrying for months. And for the first time in a long while, I felt alive. I know what you're thinking. Betrayal, wrong choices, heartbreak waiting to happen. And yes, it's all coming. But here's the thing. What Emily didn't see, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was how complicated everything had become. How much of me was still hers, and how much was slipping away without me even realizing it. The line between love, obsession, and temptation had started to blur. By the end of that night, nothing would ever be the same. One glance, one accidental touch, one fleeting laugh with Lily, and Emily's world, and mine, was about to collide in ways none of us saw coming. The truth was out there, just waiting to be discovered, and when Emily finally did, she would realize that I wasn't the same man she thought she knew. But what she saw next, that changed everything. And it's not what you think. Emily and I had been together for 7 years, 5 of them married. In public, we were the picture-perfect couple. Friends envied us, family admired us, strangers even stopped to comment on how cute we looked together. But behind closed doors, it wasn't all roses. Emily had a way of holding grudges, of letting little annoyances fester into weeks of silence. I, on the other hand, bottled things up, hoping they'd pass, but they never did. Small frustrations became walls, and those walls eventually kept us from really seeing each other. Then there was Lily. She was everything Emily wasn't: free-spirited, impulsive, fearless. She'd move through a room and draw attention without even trying. When she laughed, it was loud and contagious, the kind of laugh that made everyone else forget their problems for a second. I had always admired that about her from a distance, the way she could light up even the dullest moments. But admiration has a funny way of turning into something you don't notice until it's too late. Emily's distance had been getting worse for months. She'd stay late at work, she'd snap over tiny things, and sometimes she'd disappear without explanation. I tried to talk to her, but she'd brush me off, claiming I was overreacting or reading too much into it. At first, I thought I was just imagining the tension, but then little signs kept stacking up: forgotten plans, missed calls, sharp words that stung more than they should have. I felt like I was losing her, but I didn't know why. I remember one particular night, sitting in the kitchen, staring at the quiet hum of the refrigerator, trying to figure out where we went wrong. Emily came in, tired-eyed, brushing past me with a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. She didn't notice me staring, and that's when I realized. Our marriage had become a series of empty gestures, polite nods, and half-hearted conversations. We weren't partners anymore. We were coexisting. Lily had noticed it too. She'd comment casually, joking about how Emily and I bickered over the smallest things, but her eyes were curious, concerned. There was something almost magnetic about the way she seemed to understand me without even trying. It made me uneasy, though I didn't fully understand why. And yet, despite knowing how dangerous that connection could be, despite every warning in my head screaming stay away, I found myself looking forward to the moments when Lily would appear in the same room. The way she listened, the way she laughed at my terrible jokes, the way she made me feel like I mattered again, it was intoxicating. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't want to betray Emily. But life has a way of forcing choices on you before you're ready. And sometimes the heart refuses to obey the mind. By the time I realized how deep things were going, it was already too late. Something was brewing between us, something that could not be ignored. And Emily, she was about to see it all. The question was whether our marriage could survive it, or if what I had with her sister would burn everything to the ground. It started small, harmless glances, lingering conversations, jokes that felt too personal. But the more time I spent around Lily, the harder it became to ignore the tension between us. Every laugh, every brush of her hand, made my chest tighten. I felt guilty, deeply guilty, but also alive. It was like a spark had been buried under years of routine, and suddenly, it was roaring to life. Emily, of course, didn't see it. Or maybe she did, and that made her even colder. She would ask questions that seemed innocent, but her tone carried suspicion. "Who were you texting?" she'd say. Or, "You've been distracted lately." And I would shrug, deflect, make up some excuse. But every lie, every attempt to hide my feelings, made the guilt heavier. And I could see it in her eyes. She knew something was wrong. The tension at home became unbearable. Emily would retreat into her phone, her work, her friends, and I would retreat into the moments I shared with Lily. Sometimes I caught myself imagining a different life, one where Emily's walls didn't exist, where Lily's laughter replaced the silence that had grown between us. The thought both terrified and thrilled me. Then came the night that changed everything. Emily had gone out to meet a friend, and I found myself at a small cafe downtown with Lily, just talking. Hours passed like minutes. We laughed, we argued playfully, we shared things we'd never told anyone else. There was no going back after that night. Something unspoken had shifted, lines had been crossed, even if only emotionally. And yet, every step forward with Lily was a step closer to disaster. I knew Emily would notice, sooner or later. The thought of confronting her, of seeing the hurt in her eyes, made my stomach churn. I tried to tell myself I could control it, that it would never go beyond innocent connection. But deep down, I knew that connection was already dangerous. That week, Emily's behavior changed too. She was sharper, colder, more distant than ever. And I could sense it, like a storm building on the horizon. She was watching, waiting, and I didn't know how much longer I could keep my composure. And then it happened. Emily walked into a room and saw something she wasn't supposed to see. Something that would shatter her assumptions about me and about her sister. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened, and for a moment, time stopped. And in that frozen moment, I realized there was no turning back. Everything was about to explode. After that night, nothing felt normal again. Every glance, every message, every whispered word seemed loaded with meaning. Emily's suspicion had grown into something sharp, like a knife hovering just out of reach, ready to cut through everything. And I was trapped between two worlds. Between the life I thought I wanted and the desire that had taken hold without permission. Lily, too, seemed aware of the danger, though she never said it outright. Her touches lingered longer than necessary. Her smiles held something secret, almost daring me to act. And every time she leaned close, I felt a storm of emotions, guilt, fear, longing, all colliding at once. Being near her was intoxicating, but the thrill carried the taste of disaster. Emily started leaving little signs, subtle but unmistakable. A comment about how close Lily and I were getting, a knowing glance, the soft hum of suspicion in her voice. I could feel her unraveling piece by piece, though she never let herself break completely. She was silent, calculating, and I knew the moment she put all the pieces together, it would hit like a bomb. I tried to pull back, tried to tell myself that it was too dangerous to keep walking this line. But pulling away only made the tension worse. Lily would linger, brushing her hand against mine, and the electricity between us would ignite all over again. Each interaction was a test, a forbidden thrill that neither of us could resist. One night, I found myself standing in the dimly lit hallway of Emily's apartment, listening to her voice through the kitchen door. She was on the phone, her words clipped, precise, as if rehearsing something. I couldn't hear everything, but the snippets I caught made my heart pound. Can't believe he, with her. Her tone wasn't angry. It was colder, sharper, and more dangerous than anything I'd ever seen. And that was when I realized Emily knew more than I thought. She was waiting, watching, planning her move. The next few days were unbearable. I tried to act normal, but Emily's eyes followed me everywhere. Every time I laughed at something Lily said, I felt the weight of Emily's gaze. I could almost hear her thoughts, sharp and cutting, even when she wasn't speaking. And Lily, she was different too, quieter, tense, like she sensed the storm coming but didn't know how to stop it. It all came to a head one evening at a family gathering. Everyone was laughing, toasting, sharing stories, but I couldn't focus on any of it. My mind was spinning, knowing the secret I was carrying was too big to hide for much longer. Emily's hand brushed mine across the table, light, casual, but laced with accusation. And Lily caught my eye, a tiny spark of something I couldn't name. Then Emily turned sharply toward us, her expression shifting in an instant. Her eyes widened, her jaw tightened, and I felt that cold certainty. The moment of truth was about to arrive. Every heartbeat in my chest screamed at me that nothing could be the same after this. And in that instant, everything hung on a single look. Just when I thought the storm had reached its peak, Emily's voice cut through the tension like glass. "I knew it," she whispered, but it wasn't aimed at me. My heart froze. I turned and saw Lily's face, pale, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with terror. You were seeing him all along?" Emily's voice was calm, almost too calm, but it carried a venom that made the room shiver. And then it hit me. Lily hadn't been innocent in all of this. She hadn't just been a flirtation, a temptation. She had been planning it, coaxing me, pushing boundaries, testing me while Emily watched from the shadows. I couldn't breathe. Betrayal was no longer just a word between me and Emily. It had doubled, twisted, and come back at me from the person I trusted most outside of her. Lily's secret had been hidden under laughter, under jokes, under those stolen glances, and now it was exploding in the middle of everything we'd ever known. And in that moment, I realized the game wasn't just about me or Emily anymore. There was a player I hadn't even considered, and everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and trust was about to be rewritten. The room felt like it had shrunk, the air thick with tension. Emily's eyes burned into mine while Lily cowered just a step behind me. Every second stretched, unbearable, as if the world itself had paused to watch this moment. "I can't believe you," Emily said, her voice low, controlled, but every word was laced with fury. "I trusted you, both of you." Her hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the storm of emotions she was holding back. I opened my mouth to speak, to explain, but no words could undo the betrayal she felt. Lily finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emily, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just—" But Emily cut her off with a laugh that was sharp, cold, and terrifying. "You didn't mean for it to go this far?" Emily repeated. "Do you know what I've seen? The texts, the meetings, everything." She pointed at both of us, her gaze slicing through the pretense. "You think I didn't notice how close you were getting? How easily you crossed lines I thought were unbreakable?" I felt my chest tighten. Guilt, shame, fear, all collided inside me. I wanted to apologize, to fix this somehow, but there was no repair strong enough. And then Emily stepped closer, a finality in her movements that made my blood run cold. "I thought I'd never move on," she said softly, almost to herself. "But now I see, some lessons are taught the hard way." And with that, she pulled out her phone. My heart sank, assuming she was calling someone, telling someone everything, but the screen revealed something else. A plane ticket. A one-way ticket. "I'm leaving," she said, eyes locked on mine, voice steady. "And this time, I'm taking Lily with me." Lily gasped. I stammered, frozen. I hadn't seen this coming. Not her departure, not her choice, not the sheer audacity of it. And as Emily walked out, dragging Lily behind her, I realized the truth. The story wasn't about betrayal, or temptation, or forbidden attraction. It was about control. Emily had always known how to push the game, and now she'd rewritten all the rules. I stood there, stunned, alone, my heart pounding, not just from loss, but from the shocking realization that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. The laughter, the tension, the quiet moments, they were all gone, leaving behind only the echo of what had once been. I sank onto the couch, staring at the place where Emily and Lily had just been, trying to process how everything had unraveled so quickly. For weeks afterward, I replayed every moment, every glance, every small decision that had led to that day. I realized that love isn't just about passion or desire. It's about choices, trust, and understanding the boundaries we create for ourselves and others. I had let temptation cloud my judgment, and in doing so, I lost not only the comfort of routine, but the people I cared about most. Emily and Lily left without another word, and though I was angry, hurt, and betrayed, I couldn't bring myself to resent them entirely. Emily had been sharper, braver, and more cunning than I had given her credit for. She had acted on her instincts, taken control, and reclaimed her sense of agency. Lily had been caught in the same whirlwind, seduced by curiosity, but ultimately carried along by Emily's plan. It wasn't just about me. It was about all of us realizing the consequences of our choices. Days turned into weeks, and the silence became a kind of medicine. I focused on myself, rediscovering parts of my life that had been buried under guilt and regret. Friends reached out, but I mostly avoided explanations, knowing that some lessons can't be fully conveyed, they have to be lived. I spent evenings walking along the river, feeling the cool air on my face, thinking about what had been lost and what might still be salvaged in some other form. Then one evening, I received a message from Emily, not confrontational, not angry, just reflective. She wrote, "Some things break to make room for what's real. Take care of yourself." No bitterness, no blame, just a recognition that life moves forward, even after the most painful storms. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Somehow, knowing she was okay, and that she had chosen her path, was enough to start letting go. I realized that endings aren't always dramatic or explosive. Sometimes they're quiet, bittersweet, and full of lessons we carry with us. Love can teach you courage, betrayal can teach you humility, and mistakes can teach you self-respect. The hardest part is learning when to let go, when to forgive yourself, and when to accept that some chapters are meant to close, even if the story still echoes in your heart. And so I moved forward, carrying the memories, the lessons, and the quiet ache of what could have been. Life doesn't wait for clarity or closure. It keeps moving, relentless and honest. And in that motion, I found a strange kind of peace. The knowledge that I survived the storm, that I had felt deeply, and that I could, one day, love again, more wisely, more carefully, and perhaps even more fully than before. Because even in heartbreak, there is growth. And even in endings, there is the faint promise of a beginning.